We're going to complete the Learn by Doing that is on page 42 in OLI. It looks a little bit different than the Learn by Doings that you're used to seeing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen with you and show you how you should approach these. When you get into OLI, if you navigate to page 42, you'll see about almost at the bottom of the page, this Learn by Doing that just has a title. And it doesn't have any, normally you'll see something underneath it like you do with the Did I Get This? And so if we select the 5-number summary Learn by Doing, it opens up a page that has directions on it. And in those directions, you'll see about halfway down, it says Excel 19 PC. We don't use Excel, we use StatCrunch. So the first thing that you're gonna do is you're gonna change this Excel to StatCrunch instructions. Then that allows you to be able to perform this Learn by Doing in the way that our textbook is designed. The directions say, in this activity, you're going to use Best Actor Oscar winners and learn how to use descriptive statistics where we're calculating the 5-number summary. And so click here to see the entire data set. So this will show you the data that we're talking about. These are all of the different Academy Award winners. But we need to somehow get this data into StatCrunch. So what we're going to do is we need to open the file in StatCrunch by loading it into our computer. So where it says first right click here, you're going to hover over that and you're going to right click with your mouse and you're going to save the link as instead of, it says save target as, but I'm going to save the link as to download the file to your computer. And you can decide wherever you want to download it. I'm just going to put it in my downloads folder for now. And then we're going to open StatCrunch. So once I open StatCrunch, you have to log in, you've got to click the yellow button, but then we're going to open StatCrunch and load from the file on my computer. So it's different than loading from a shared data set. So in StatCrunch, I open StatCrunch and I click load from my computer. Okay, so data, load from a file on my computer. And then I'm going to search for that file. Mine is actually at the bottom of my Google Chrome window, and so I can just drag it right there, or you can browse for it on your computer, depending on where it's located. And my first header has a name of age. I like that. It actually labels it for me, the row header. And then I'm going to scroll down. The first line is the column name. If it wasn't age, you would want to make sure that that was unchecked, and you would verify. If you look back now at this 5 things, you'll see age, 43, 40, 48, 48. That's not right because age is the title of what this data is. So I want to select first line as column name, which is already done for me. And then I click upload. StatCrunch now has all of my data, and then I can go through the Learn by Doing as I'm supposed to in OLI with this activity where I can choose summary statistics and I can answer these questions. But these are a different version of the Learn by Doing that you'll see throughout the semester or the course where you need to download the data and you've got to make sure you change your instructions to StatCrunch instructions first in order to go through this. All right, now we're going to move on to the next few questions.
What values make up the 5-number summary? The 5-number summary is made up of the minimum, the maximum, the middle, and the middle of the lower half and the middle of the upper half. So it's the minimum, the first quartile, the median, the third quartile, and the maximum. The IQR is a measure of spread that we can use to describe variability of a distribution. And it is the range of the interquartile range. It's the range of the quartiles. So it's Q3 minus Q1. The range of the middle 50%. The range, is maximum minus minimum. The interquartile range is Q3 minus Q1. Identifying outliers uses the interquartile range. So what we do is we determine what the fences are from the quartiles, to determine how far out is considered an outlier. A standard rule of thumb is 1.5 times the interquartile range from the quartiles is considered an outlier. Extreme outliers are 3 times the interquartile range, but we'll just deal with 1.5 times. You take 1.5 times whatever the interquartile range is, and you either add it to the upper quartile or you subtract it from the lower quartile, and wherever is above or below that is considered an outlier. So if I was to draw a distribution, that looks like this. The interquartile range is this distance right here. If I took another one of those distance and then a half, anything that would be above that would be considered an outlier, because this is Q3, this is Q1. So if I did, this is really not using numbers, but just giving you a rough idea of spaces. Anything below this would be considered an outlier. These are fences that we're creating. And anything outside the fence is an outlier. So because my box plot went all the way to here, that means that that means the minimum is at that black arrow. There would have to have been at least one outlier. And then did I get this from page 42? We have a class of 37 students who took a test that's worth 100 points. So the score was out of 100. And the 5-number summary was 55, 67, 73, 81, 98. That means that the minimum was 55, the maximum was 98, the middle was 73, and the lower quartile was 67, and the upper quartile was 81. So the minimum was 55, the lower quartile was 67, the median was 73, the upper quartile was 81, and the maximum was 98. And they're asked, the middle 50% of the scores fell between which two values? The middle 50%, that's quartile 1 and quartile 2. That's 67 and 81. Part B asks us to identify which of the following are true or false, and if it's false, why. There's 4 statements. And the first one says at least 9 students scored between 67 and 73. The second one says at least 18 students scored below 67. The third one says at least 25% scored an 81 or above. And then the fourth one says at least 25% scored 67 or below. Let's look at the percentages first, because we know with quartiles, there's 25% within each quarter. So if you look at question 3, it says at least 25% of the students scored an 81 or above. That's from Q3 and up. And there is 25% of the data there. So at least 25% are there. That's true. Question 4 says at least 25% scored a 67 or below. So 67 or below, that's Q1 to the minimum. That's also 25%. So if 3 is true, 4 is true. But then 1 and 2 start talking about numbers of individuals. There were 37 people who took the class. And if you divided that into quarters, you're going to have about 9 in each group. The middle median person is actually not going to be included in your upper and your lower half. There's going to be 18 below, 1 person, and then 18 above. Anyway, question 1 says at least 9 students score between a 67 and a 73. That's in 1 quarter. So in 1 group, do I have 9 people? That's true. And then question 2 says at least 18 students scored below a 67. That's right here. They're saying from Q1 to the minimum, there's 18 students. There should only be 9, so that's not true, that's false. So not 18, but 9. Question 15 says, let's revisit the cereal brands in StatCrunch and compute the interquartile range and the percentages. So let's go back to StatCrunch and load this data and work through this problem.